Sorry for the wait. I'm just going to start now without further introducing myself. I will speak to you today about open access at Springer. I will also address some of the issues of predatory publishers, but we will also have a look at the importance of open access today and how this has changed over the years, because open access has become, in fact, very important also in South Africa, despite the issues that we've heard about in a couple of weeks. So I may cut off some of the things because we don't have so much time now, but if you have any questions, I hope maybe a couple of minutes after the presentation. So Springer and open access consists of 3 columns. First of all, on the left, the green root of open access. These are the author's rights, the right of the author to archive an article published in a traditional Springer journal, on his or her own website after a 6-month embargo period, or after 12 months on an institutional repository, the green rule of open access, that is. The second column, we see hybrid open access, is part of the gold rule of open access, which means that here the author can publish an open access article, a fully open access paper, but in one of the traditional Springer journals as well, for a fee of around $3,000. This is called Springer Open Choice and part of the gold root of open access at Springer. And the third column is Biomed Central and Springer Open, also fully gold open access journals across many areas of science, technology and medicine, and also in news areas such as humanities and social sciences in the case of Springer Open. Again, gold open access and green open access, what are the differences? Gold open access means publishing an article that will become open access as soon as it gets accepted by the paper, so immediate open access and unrestricted open access, such as fully open access journals at Biomed Central or optional open access journals in Springer Open Choice, for example, where the researcher decides whether to pay this fee and have the article published open access, or she decides not to pay this fee, and the article will be published also in the same journal, but not in open access, and the readers will need to pay a subscription fee for this. Green open access means archiving a document, a dissertation, research data, or a published article on an institutional or subject-specific repository. Subject-specific repositories, for example, PubMed Central for medicine or Archive for physics. And institutional repositories we have here at the University of the Witwatersrand as well as Pretoria, for example. So Biomed Central is one of the largest publishers of open access peer-reviewed articles across science, technology, and medicine. We have now published 150,000 peer-reviewed open access articles since the launch of our first journal in 2000, and we've now published 257 open access titles. Since 2008, we are part of Springer. We cooperate very closely with them on the open access program. For example, the institutional agreement between Biomed Central and the institution also covers Springer open journals. Articles in our journals receive more than 10 million downloads every month. Articles are published under the Creative Commons license, which allows reuse of the article, for example, in a repository, and the cost is covered by the article processing charges. This is now Springer Open, the other part of the fully gold open access path at Springer. And these are also fully open access journals covering all disciplines, mainly non-medical and non-life sciences journals, also under the Creative Commons license. They now publish 150 peer-reviewed journals, also in humanities and social sciences, and in the coming years they also plan to publish another 400 to 500 more journals. These are some of the Biomed Central subject areas. So all fully open access journals at Springer are published with Biomed Central. And all the other non-medical life sciences journals at Springer for fully open access option are with Springer Open, but we also got things like multilingual sciences, mathematics, or signal processing, for example. Now, why is open access becoming more and more important, and what are the differences between the traditional publishing model and open access publishing? With open access, there are no barriers to access, such as subscription costs, but the full text of an article can be downloaded and read free of charge. Instead, the publisher, or Environment Central in this case, charges the researcher, the author directly, for the service of publication and dissemination of their article. And all articles are licensed under the Creative Commons license, which allows them to be reused and redistributed. And as these articles are so widely disseminated, they are universally accessible. They can be accessed by everybody. On the other hand, there are also things that don't change for open access, such as the standards of peer review, at least with the good, I would say, open access publishers. For example, our journals, many prestigious researchers are editorial board members or editors-in-chief of our journals. And also the process itself, the peer review process is essentially the same, although there are some differences, such as some of our journals use the open access peer review system, which I will tell you a little bit more about later on. Also, our journals are included by many indexing services, such as Medline and Thomson Reuters ISI. Why is open access good for authors and for researchers and for the research community? First of all, it breaks down barriers between fields, between disciplines, which means that an author from one discipline has now access to all journals and articles across many more different disciplines of science than before. Also, universal access to research encourages the public engagement with scientific and medical research, and it increases the understanding in the non-medical community for research outcomes that might be relevant, for example, to patients or to general practitioners. And also the global exchange of scientific information is very much improved by open access, because researchers can communicate with each other and exchange information on the research that they are working on, which also, of course, important for researchers in developing countries who may not have easy access to expensive subscription-based content. And for researchers, this has also various other benefits and opportunities to publish in open access. Articles are made available on the internet immediately and permanently as soon as they are accepted by the journal. They are widely visible and they are easy to find on the internet. And because of this visibility, they are also widely indexed, and this has, can have a positive effect on the citation power of the article. There are also no barriers to dissemination because of the Creative Commons license, because of the right to reuse the article, such as upload the article, archive it on an institutional repository, on an author's own website, share it with colleagues, or also use it for lectures and conferences, which is not always easily possible with non-open access publishers. This is an example of the high visibility of content published at Wits Central. It's in fact a list of articles, of the most popular articles in the week of the 7th of October at Wits Central. And the first most popular article has been accessed over 27,000 times. And here an example of a highly cited article at Wits Central, the Journal of Parasites and Vectors. This article has been published in 2010, I think, by also co-authored by a researcher at Witwatersrand University. And as we can see here on the left, the article has been cited 77 times on Scopus. And also on the right, in the right-hand corner, you can see how many times it has been accessed, over 10,000 times since its publication. Now, what does open access look like today, and how is the open access landscape changing? Back in 2000, we pioneered this publishing model. We were the first open access publisher, basically. And now we can see that there are many other open access publishers, fully gold open access publishers such as Hindawi or PLOS, but also mostly traditional publishers as Springer or Wiley offer now either open access access programs, especially in also new areas for open access, such as humanities or social sciences. In 2013, there are nearly 10,000 open access journals on the directory of open access journals. Over 1,000 journals have an impact factor indexed by ISI, and open access to research is now mandated by over 150 research institutions around the world, and also over 50 research funders have open access mandates. A recent study found also that 8.5% of peer-reviewed articles are now published in a fully open access format, which is very impressive considering the relatively young age of open access. And here we can see how the publications and submissions to Biomed Central journals have developed since 2001. In 2012 alone at Biomed Central, over 20,000 articles were accepted for publication. Also, the quality of our journals is very high, and the number of journals that we have an impact factor is increasing. We know that these impact factors are very important for the researchers because the career opportunities simply depend on them. And this impact factor is many times challenged. The reason to have them or important real significance of impact factors, but they are important to researchers, so we aim for an impact factor for every single of our journals. And here we see the development in number of journals at Biomed Central that has an impact factor. And in 2013, there were already 150, in June 2013, 150 of our 260 journals that had an impact factor already. And these are the top impact factor journals at Biomed Central. And the highest one is Genome Biology with an impact factor of over 10. Followed by particle and phytotoxicology, which has also editorial board members from South Africa, and same for BMC Medicine. In fact, they are from Stellenbosch University, and the other journal is Biotechnology for Biofuels, and the Professor Duprez at University of the Free State is editor-in-chief of that journal. Also, not only the number of impact factor and the amount of impact factor for our journals increasing, but also we are adding more journals to our portfolio, which also are interesting for different subject areas, not only for the real medical or life sciences areas. Now, because I've been asked to do so because of recent developments, I wanted to address the issue of hereditary open access publishers, especially with regards to the science open access sting operation. So this an article on the Science magazine from just 2 weeks ago, published by a scientific journalist called Johanna Kuhn, the title was "Who is Afraid of Peer Review?" It caused really considerable waves across the scientific publishing community, especially with the open access publishers. So let's have a look at what happened here. This journalist, scientific journalist, wrote a fake scientific paper claiming that he had found a miracle cure for cancer. And he submitted this paper to under a fake author name, on a fake affiliation, different ones, access journals. And unfortunately, I have to say, over 100 lower tier open access journals actually accepted this paper. Mostly they didn't even ask the authors to make any revisions apart from maybe some formatting things. And although the paper really contained very serious mistakes, and according to this purposely included errors in this paper were so obvious that any reviewer with more than a high school knowledge of chemistry and the ability to understand a basic data plot should have spotted the paper's shortcomings immediately. Its experiments are so hopelessly flawed that the results are meaningless. So the only conclusion that we can draw from this is that these papers have not been reviewed at all. So obviously, this looks very bad in open access. It looks like open access journals were just just cash operations that did not worry at all about the quality of the papers that they were accepting as long as the authors paid the article processing charge. However, there's a little problem with this study from our perspective because no non-open access publishers or journals have been included in this study at all. So only open access publishers. Now, it would be very interesting to see what would have happened if also traditional publishers would have been included. And many people actually believe that for the lower tier or for the not very high quality traditional journals, it would have been the same problem. Of course, we will not know for now because this journal has not been included in the study. But if this was the case, this would mean that there is a problem with peer review, with the peer review system, that this is flawed, that is broken, and dependent on the business model that the publisher uses to pay for their cost, independent of whether they are open access publishers or traditional publishers. And this fact that the non-open access journals were included in this study is really a point of complaint for the critiques of this paper. And as important as these findings really are, it doesn't give a full picture of the publishing community or peer review system itself. So, of course, what I'm very happy to report about Central was not one among the publishers who accepted this journal. So, yeah, I'm glad to say that. But nevertheless, it still raises a credibility problem for open access. Because there's no way around the fact that there are publishers who do this, who are not, who can't be trusted, who are not really worthwhile the author's attention to submit papers, and for example, also many predatory open access publishers send review requests to researchers from fields that have no specialization in the discipline of the paper that they are being requested to review. For example, a researcher in biochemistry is being asked by a journal to review a paper in the field of genetics, and he's not even a specialist. So maybe some of you will know also have received requests like this, and I would recommend you wasting your time with this. But the difficult thing for the researchers is to know who are these predatory open access publishers and who should we be looking out for. And one help is the Beers list. The Beers list of predatory open access publishers helps the researchers to identify those predatory publishers, and he has established some criteria to recognize them as potential, possible, or probably predatory scholarly open access publishers. You can visit the website. If you Google Beers list, you will find all the criteria in very much detail. But here are some of them. For example, he looks at whether the publisher adheres to any ethical standards established by membership organizations such as the Open Access Scholarly Publisher Association or HOPE. Also, he looks at the editorial policies. For example, does the publisher provide any information at all on the editorial board? And it's maybe are there maybe one or two or more journals at this publisher who have identical editorial boards, or also, for example, an indicator of a predatory open publisher is if the owner of the publisher is identical with the editor of all of the journals. Another thing is the business management. There might be a lack of transparency about the business management, or they might not have policies in place for digital preservation. This is also a thing to look out for. And finally, integrity. The journal may falsely claim to have an impact factor, or not have an impact factor at all, or also the name of the journal may not be consistent with the mission of the journal itself. So if you visit the website, you will be able to also find the list of all these publishers and how this has been established. Now, Environment Central's aim, of course, is to improve the transparency and the quality of our open access environment, so that therefore we have also been working a long time with open access peer review, which means that all pre-publication data and also reviews are made public along with the final publisher's version on the internet. So you can read the reviews, you can see which modifications have been made, and also the reviewers are no longer anonymous for some of our journals, not all, but for some of the journals you can see who has actually reviewed that paper. of course, this is much more transparent for the readers and for the authors. One of the journals that does make also the reviewers public is Biology Direct. We are also working on creating a peer review consortium with other publishers like EMBO, PLOS and eLife to make peer review open access across publishers, not just at Biome Central, which will mean that the reviews, the information on the article regarding to the review process will be made public to other publishers. For example, an article has been submitted to one journal at one publisher but rejected, and this will now be made known to the other publisher where they also may submit the paper to after being rejected by the first paper. Also, we are always working to continue to improve the transparency and quality not only at peer review for Biome Central journals but globally. So we are members of the Committee on Publication Ethics as well as the World Association of Medical Editors, and these associations work on improving quality of peer review process globally. So just quickly some practical methods regarding publishing at Biome Central. As I mentioned, the costs are covered by the article processing charges, and they are being used very generalized for the following things: editorial, technical, production, marketing, and customer services. And these are the same things that other publishers also use the subscription fees for that they receive from the libraries or from the readers. So there's really no difference in case you are wondering why we charge article processing charges at all. These are the costs. Now, the cost of publishing can be covered often by the researcher, by the authors themselves, but many times they don't have access to research grants or open access funds at the university. So we have also developed several institutional agreement models for institutions to support the researchers when publishing in our journals. With the first prepare agreement, the authors do not have to cover the cost at all, but it is covered entirely by the institution. In the second shared support agreement, the author pay 50% of the article processing charges, and the other half is covered by the institution. And the third one is support agreement. The institution pays an annual membership fee, and the authors then receive always 15% discount when they want to publish either Biome Central and Springer Open journals. Also, we work with institutions in developing countries as defined by World Bank, where researchers do not have to pay any article processing charges at all. In fact, for authors in these countries, it is free to publish with Biome Central. And also in other cases of economic problems, when the individual author simply cannot find the funds, but he wants to publish in his open access journal, the editor-in-chief of the journal can consider on a case-by-case basis to grant also an automated waiver to that researcher. This is an example of a member institution in South Africa. It's the University of Pretoria. This is the website that we set up on Biome Central for member institutions to show the articles that they have published and that gives the articles also more visibility. We've got now 463 members in 51 countries around the world, 6 of them in South Africa. Also, we're working now with papers. It is a reference management system that allows you to search on 25 different repositories from within the Webflow tool, and also web search on websites for manuscripts, for articles that you want to work with, also open access articles, of course, and organize them together with the supplementary materials, read full screen, highlight, take notes, and also cite your own articles from manuscripts that are saved within the library in any word processor that you like. Now finally, some figures on open access at the University of Witwatersrand from a Biome Central and Springer perspective. This is how the number of publications and submissions has developed since 2009. In red, rejected manuscripts. In blue, the accepted manuscripts, and in green for 2013, the articles are currently being reviewed. universities and journals. And these are now the most popular journals for submissions from university or Protestant researchers, most popular being Public Health. So open access is fast, it is here to stay, and there are of course always difficulties, such as we have experienced 2 weeks ago with 33 open access publishers and with publishers that want to take advantage of the researchers' need to publish and to get the impact factor to be cited, but we still expect the continuation of growth of open access publishing, and this involves also, of course, support of institutions and research funders around the world to show to researchers the possibility of open access publishing, and also encourage them to consider open access journals for their research publications where it is appropriate,